Okay, the meeting's live.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of June. Wow, it's the 23rd. I apologize. I wasn't expecting it to be the 23rd of June 23rd, 2020. It is 1:04 p.m. and we are live on the Zoom platform. We have 7 items on today's agenda, and we're going to kick it off with item number 1. Our agenda today is nominated by Police Chief Hagan. But first I will attempt to do a roll call here. Present from City Council, we have Adam Yoder, Bonnie Katz, John Mackey. Present from, and then myself, Liz Mealy. Present from the administration, I see Chief Hagan, Chris Cooley, Janice Frank. Janice, I'm not sure which one you count as, and Joe Pavlak. And if I missed anybody, please, by all means.
Liz, you're muted.
Did I do that, Chris? Who knows?
I think you did. Yep.
Okay, brilliant. Anyway, item number 1 on today's agenda is a resolution for a consulting agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Police and the PA Chiefs of Police. Chief Hagan?
Good afternoon, everyone. This resolution that you have before you is in reference to a consulting agreement between the city, Williamsport Police, and PA Chiefs. Here last year, after having worked with the PA Chiefs for many years, the last administration had gotten away from using this agency for oral boards. Last year, we took a look at that and decided to go back. They had been using other folks, known administrators from other departments, to try to save money. We didn't think that that was a good course, so we went back and we were very happy with the way things went last year with our promotion tests. So as you can see, the costs are listed in the contract, and it covers a group of 8. We just happen to have 9 that are going to be testing. If they all pass and they all need oral boards, I've already been assured that they'll be able to fit in a 9th one for that day, so we won't incur an entire second day's worth of costs. But this is very important to make the testing fair. We're also bringing in a proctor from the PA Chiefs to administer the written test on the 13th of July. So this is a very, very professional agency. Typically, you have retired chiefs and captains and people like that come in. 3 of them come in and do all of the oral board interviews for all the different ranks. It's very, very organized. The written tests are sent to a company named Standard & Associates in Chicago. We usually get those results back in a week. And again, after the oral boards, those 3 board members score the oral interviews and get the results back to us. We combine those 2, the written and oral, and then we put out a civil service list. And Jeff Reeder and the Civil Service Commission are involved throughout the entire process. I just spoke to Jeff this morning and briefed him on what our plans are. So we're looking forward to doing this. Because it's a consulting agreement, it's obviously something that needs to come before council. So I'm bringing it before you now. Thank you.
You're muted.
Sorry, usually I leave my sound on, but it's pretty windy out here. Adam, Bonnie, do you have any further questions? And Bonnie, was it covered in public safety?
No, this wasn't covered in public safety.
Okay.
At all. Chief, you more or less went through this before with us and how important this program is. The cost factor is $1,500 a day, and plus expenses for the day also. I'm happy to hear that they'll do the 9th person without doing a second day. That's really good. You said that This was used in the past, many years ago, and you were very happy with this program in the past. So what is the benefit of having this program? Just to update us, of what this entails, the reason for this program.
For obvious reasons, not having your own police administrators pick who they like and who they don't like, having people who are impartial is essential to the fairness part that we're going for here. Plus, this is the agency that's also responsible for administering the state level accreditation for all police departments. So it's an agency typically made up of retired chiefs who have decades of experience administering tests, running police departments, and doing that in a professional way. So what we're trying to do is get away from, the old idea that someone's going to promote their buddy or put them into a position of privilege or power, and that we're gonna have a fair process that causes the cream to rise to the top, if that makes sense. We're gonna let people who should be, or who, first of all, who are interested in it, voluntarily put in for a test. We're not going to make them. They have to want it, and then they have to study really, really hard. These tests are difficult. The written in particular, very difficult. You can't just cram in the last day of the 45-day study period. So it takes a little bit of dedication. And then the interview board, they're coming in, talking to people who they don't already know. People who, in most cases, unless you've taken multiple tests and you happen to run into the same guy again, you may have never seen them before in your life. And so it really is a clean interview where they can, judge the attitude and intelligence and character of the guy or girl before them, without all of the bias of 10, 15, 20 years of working with the guy. So we believe it's a fair process. We also have pre-qualifications, and there are other things that can make you unqualified to even participate in the promotional process. I'm sure you can imagine what some of those things are. So you have to meet certain qualifications in terms of years of service and no disciplinary action for so long and things like that, just to be able to take the test. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of information.
I like the idea that this is you're getting away from bias. As we know, there could be nepotism and everything else in the department, and it's not only a police department, it's in any way. So this does make it a clean interview for everybody. So I think this is a good program. Thank you, Chief.
Adam, do you have anything you'd like to chime in with?
Nah, not right now.
Okay. Chief, if I could ask quick, I agree with you that I think it's good to remove some potential bias from within the department from the promotional process. On the other hand, I also think that it can be hard looking at 8, 9 candidates in the course of a day. I guess I think that departmental input is also important in terms of the long range performance of the individual, as well as someone who takes kind of a clean look at the individual, not having some of the biases that members of the department might have. I guess what I'm thinking is that in most cases within, anywhere in the world, promotional decisions are made by people within the company who've worked with an individual for a long period of time. Does that do within the company, within the organization? Does that happen in any part of our process?
Not as much anymore. In the past, we had evaluation system, and the evaluation scores were part of the final score. The problem with that is it's nearly impossible to remove the bias that comes. For example, you have a supervisor who would normally give you an 80 out of 100 on a eval, but you're going up for promotional tests, so he gives you 100. And then that could change your overall score a fraction of a point and put you ahead of someone who might be even more qualified. So what we saw was more negative than positive when you did that. It's been my experience, while occasionally someone slips through the cracks, it has been my experience that people who are dedicated enough to put in and do all the studying that they need to do, prepare for these interviews, and come in here, they're talking to older veteran chiefs and captains who can tell when someone actually knows what they're talking about. That process, what we're doing right now, is about as good and fair as it can be. I do believe the law allows something called the rule of three. We go in order on our civil service list, but I believe the law itself allows us to pick from the top three for promotions if we wanted to. Again, though, the problem with that is you'll have guys picking their buddies and skipping over other people. And so, yes, we want to put the right person in there, but we don't want the kind of favoritism that can end up exposing us to large amounts of liability. We have a process when we promote people where we train them and keep an eye on them. And if they're unable to make it, then they can hand in their rank and go back to their prior position. We've seen that happen on a couple of occasions in the past where guys didn't like the new rank and they went back to the old one. But in large part, this is a very professional, successful process. And I think the more that we get involved in it, the less of a positive outcome we'll have. I think this is the best system I've seen since I've been here, with all the different evals we've had and all the different systems. This is about as good as it gets.
And obviously we didn't have any issues with the results from last year's testing, correct?
No, ma'am. And just to let you know, in this particular round, there are 3 testing for lieutenant, only 1 for agent, 1 for sergeant, and 4 for corporal. So we're not seeing the numbers of people testing. There's not a lot of openings anyway, but we used to see more people testing. We have a very young department. As you know, more than half of them have less than 8 years on the department. So we have an experience gap there that we're working with as best we can. But the problem will eventually correct itself. But right now, there's not as many in the middle ranks interested in testing.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you, Chief, for the information. I'm glad that it's worked out for us thus far, and I hope it continues to work out for us this year. If I hear no other questions from other members of the committee,
Make a
Or any-
motion that we pass this on to a full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Moving on to item number 2. Oh, my, you know what? I could have just left that up. I apologize, Chief. Moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, we have a resolution for an agreement for tactical team placement between the Lycoming County Williamsport Police and Lycoming County Williamsport Police Special Response Team and the South Williamsport Police Department. Chief Hagan?
Yes, before you is a resolution, and these 4 resolutions, items number 2 through 5, all went before public safety an hour and a half ago, and were passed on the full body, or not the full body, passed on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation. Essentially what these agreements are, and we already had, I believe, a couple of them in place from the past. The agreement is for officers from other jurisdictions in this county to be members of our CERT team. And their parent agencies or municipalities pay their salary and benefits when they come and do the required training day every 2 weeks. They also pay their overtime when they respond out. The vast majority of incidents, we took a look at there were 11 call outs that I'm aware of in the last 11 months, nearly a year. And of those, 8 were in the city. So we get a huge benefit from these other agencies giving us people to be on the team. And right now we have one with the DA, one with the sheriff, one with South Williamsport, and 2 with Tyadotten, so 5. Several people are on our team, are from our agency, and then we have medics from UPMC or Susquehanna that work on our team as well. This is done or able to be done through the under the guise of the Pennsylvania Statewide Municipal Police Jurisdictional Act. They do have jurisdiction by us signing this agreement, allowing them to come in and do their work here. They do have jurisdiction here while they're here, but they are covered under insurance by their own police departments in cities and boroughs and townships. The reason for the timing of this right now was recently we wanted to send members of the CERT team to training, and I spoke to Mr. Pavlak about using general fund training dollars to do that because they're members of our CERT team, even though they're not part of the team or they're not part of the police department. And he wanted to know where that was written down. I took a look at these agreements, and it says in the agreement, actually under participation, that the corresponding training is held at the cost of the participating agency. But that sentence is referring to the day that they train with us every 2 weeks. That doesn't refer to specialized schools like basic SWAT school, less lethal schools, the firearm schools that they need to go to, and other things like that are related to their CERT operations. With that, I talked to Austin White after I was done speaking with Mr. Pavlak, and he suggested that I add the next sentence, which says specialized training may be handled at the cost of the city of Williamsport and or Bureau of Police if agreed to between the parties. So essentially what that means is that they're going to continue, their agencies are going to continue to do what they've done, pay for their training. Every 2 weeks, they have 1 day that they come in and train. They're going to pay their overtime on call outs. However, if we need to send them to a school, whether it's planned in our training budget prior to the beginning of the year, or whether it's something that comes up during the year, and we're not able to get assistance from their parent agency or the DA's office or a grant or any of the other funding sources that we have, but it's a great opportunity to send them to a training, then we would be able in that rare circumstance to use general fund money. Also, there is as some of you know, there's a donation account. In that donation account right now is $7,100. Probably close to 5,000 is already earmarked for tactical equipment for one officer. So there's about 2,100 left for, I don't know what it's all, some of it may have been donated with a specific earmark and some may not have been. I would have to look at what makes up the 2,100. I don't have that in front of me, but Mr. Pavlak, I checked with him after public safety and he said we have 7,100 in that account. So again, every effort would be made to make sure that the training is covered, hopefully at least in part by someone else or some entity other than the city. But if we needed to, signing off on this agreement would allow us to use general fund money if we needed to send one of these officers to a school that we deem necessary. And also keep in mind the great benefit. Councilman Yoder asked in the prior meeting to kind of see, and we're putting statistics together for you for the next meeting to kind of see how much these cities are giving to us, how much the salary is and their benefits and what value there is to that. But I can assure you it's a lot of money. 11 call outs, some of them 2, 3 or more hours long. For instance, the presidential detail, the homicidal suspect up in Lock Haven, call outs like that, full 8-hour training days. They're giving us, and most of these incidents occur here in the city. We get a huge benefit from them participating here. And it really, for us to pay the small amount that it would cost to send them to an occasional training would not be a bad thing. If we have to do that, I don't think it would be a huge loss. So anyway, with that, I welcome any questions.
Bonnie, can you talk to me a little bit about the discussion of public safety?
Yes, we did have a really long discussion with this at Public Safety. First of all, this was founded in 1990. This is how long this has been, the CERT team has been working. Our questions, the chief answered. We wanted to know who was paying the insurance on this, went into the cost factors, and I know the chief mentioned that he's going to have an analysis as far as what it costs for the training 2 times a month. That I think you'll have probably for council, chief. And other than that, the program sounds really good. Right now, they have 2 officers from the Ty Dotton. They have 1 from the county. And chief, I lost track of what you said with the others, where others came from. But this is, it was paid, a lot of this is paid by the parent agencies. It was in the past. At this point, the agencies are taking care of most of the costs for all of this. And as the chief said, for some of the classes that they might have to go to, the cost, what it sounds like, is very minimal. They do respond to numerous events. And in this day and age, I think this is well needed at this point. Chief, like I said, you said we have 2 from Ty Dotton, 1 from the county, and where were the others from? You said there was 0 from where?
2 from Ty Dotton, 1 from South Williamsport, 1 DA's office detective. There used to be 2, there's 1 now. And 1 from the sheriff's department. And just to add to what Councilwoman Katz was saying, our special response team under the Terrorism Task Force is responsible for an 8-county response area. We work hand in hand with Columbia Montour team and also on occasion with the state police SWAT team, which has a 4-hour, typically a 4-hour response time. Our response time is usually between 1 and 2 hours, which is a very, very valuable tool. The primary use of our team is done with high-risk warrant services, drug houses and places like that. But they also respond to a whole wide range of incidents, including barricaded gunmen, obviously hostage situations, downed officers, downed citizens who've been shot during active shooter incidents. They can respond to riots. They can deploy all kinds of special weapons and equipment. SWAT itself, we call it Special Response Team, but SWAT itself stands for special weapons and tactics, and that's what they do. They alleviate the incredible liability that we would face if we were sending untrained patrol officers in to do some of these more extremely dangerous things that they're able to do. And because we have that team and have since 1990 in one form or another, we've been able to make a lot of very dangerous situations safe. There is a cost to it, and we recognize that. But thus far, we've been willing to accept that, given the huge benefit to us and the surrounding areas, with this team. So they're highly trained, motivated. They're the only people on the police department that are required to take an annual PT test, so they have to keep themselves in shape, and they all do. They have sniper capabilities. They have all sorts of different training and weapons capabilities, and a quick response force for, like I said before, riots and things like that. Some of the stuff that we believe we're going to keep seeing here in the near future, they're able to assist with those kinds of responses as well. Also, keep in mind the fact that we have this team. I mean, 11 usages in a year. They're not going out and doing like community policing with the SWAT team. This is dangerous stuff. This is not your regular police work. We are still planning to send all of our officers to diversity training, to de-escalation training, which is becoming, as you can imagine, very popular across the country, has been the last couple of years. And we were already planning to send our officers to all those different kinds of training as well this year. But then we were hit with COVID. We have plans to send 2 of our officers who have a lot of experience with wrestling and ground fighting to defensive tactics instructor schools, so that we will have in-house instructors that can train our officers on a regular basis on how to do tactics, so that we will greatly decrease our liability with regard to situations where we actually have to put our hands on people. We have plans as part of our training plan to make these dangerous situations, be it on patrol or the more dangerous situations with CERT, make them safer. So that's it.
Chief, you said that your training budget is 60,000. We brought it up from 50 to 60. And if you needed the specialized training with the outside agencies, you said you'd go to the general fund. What you're addressing then is that you're not going to have enough money in your training budget for this, if this comes about.
No, we already have plans to spend some of that money on our own people. This issue, the additional language in there, is literally particular to those few members of the team that aren't Williamsport police officers. I didn't even realize it would be an issue because they're on our team working in our city with agreements. But Mr. Pavlak had an issue with it and brought it to my attention. I talked to Mr. White about it, and he suggested the additional language in there. And so that's basically why we're redoing them. I have every intention to try to find, even where our officers are concerned, to try to find other funding sources other than the general fund to get training. But there's a certain amount of training that we have to pay for ourselves. Obviously, there's no issue when it's one of our officers, but there apparently is one when it's not one of our guys, even though they're on our team working in our city on a regular basis. So that's what we tried to address here. That's it.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't have any other questions.
Chief, can I ask a quick question? How many members of the Williamsport Bureau of Police are on how many members is the SRT total? First off.
Stand by. I don't know how many medics are on it now, so let me pull the list up. Stand by.
You're muted, chief. You're muted. Chief, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Chief.
Chief, you're still muted, buddy. There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, there's 7 members from the Williamsport Police, not counting myself and the assistant chief, who are commanders, tactical commanders in a situation where we activate the ICS or incident command system. There are 7 additional, including Lieutenant Smith, who's the commander. There are 19 total people, so there are several medics and then the 5 additional officers that, so including myself and the assistant chief, there are 19 total people on the roster. If you take us out, there are 17. 7 of them are our officers, and then there are tactical medics that help make up that number of 17.
And I mean, from the sounds of things, from the incidents you're describing in the last year, we have incidents, some of which start in the city but move elsewhere. I mean, obviously, all of this stuff crosses not just city but county lines. So the response area is pretty broad. For instance, the Lockhaven not hostage situation, but barricade situation, obviously was men living in Lockhaven, but the crime issue began in the city, correct?
You're muted, chief.
Yes, ma'am. That was a murder at 4th and Elmira that led us
Yep.
to Lockhaven, and then Captain Shadle of the state police had at his disposal either his own team or ours, and the response time on his team would have been much longer. So he elected to request ours, and they did a great job up there. But yes, we have responded. We have, under the terrorism task force, the responsibility of an 8-county response area, and again, we work with teams from other areas as well.
Got it. Well, but our team itself seems to involve basically 2 elements from the county, one from South Williamsport, and then 2 guys, but Tyadon. Are those the only partnerships we have within the 8 counties?
No, those people are actually on our team. That's a different type of partnership. The one I was just talking about is another team that works typically in the Bloomsburg area to the east, Columbia Montour team under the command of Chief Breach. And then we also work with the state police team from this region. They have a CERT team, and on occasion have communicated with State College. They have their own team out there as well, although we haven't done much training with them as of yet. So we train with other agencies. They also have training the last couple years that has been grant sponsored in New Mexico, where the team has been flown out and put up in a hotel, all at the expense of the federal government for training as well. So we look at all funding opportunities and sources. Some of this training is stuff that we see coming and we can plan for, and some of it's stuff that comes up and we have to act quickly or we lose the opportunity. Typically, though, most of this is stuff that we can see coming.
Mm-hmm. And so for the past 30 years, when we've had special trainings that require financial input, these other partners of ours have paid for their own share.
When it came to the 8 hours a day, once every 2 weeks, and the call outs, yes. There has been some small reimbursements with regard to drug cases in the past from drug task force or the narcotics enforcement unit, but they are no longer reimbursing that for tactical operations. The DA's office is no longer doing the reimbursement. As far as specialized training or schools, A lot of that's been paid for by the DA and grants. I do believe, without a specific instance, I do believe that we have probably paid for instance, Officer Aldendorfer from Tyadotton may have been sent to a school here or there at the cost of the city, but I don't have those records in front of me. I would have to do some research to see that. I think that may have happened in the past. However, when the issue came up here, like I said, Mr. Pavlak asked right away. I looked at the agreements and it wasn't really covered there. So we decided to address it in this way.
Okay. Help me to understand, Chief. A lot of the other teams that you're citing are not run by cities. Why is the SRT team in the cities, in our case, somehow the province of the city of Williamsport instead of the county or the DA? I mean, you cited Columbia, Montour County. You cited the state police. Is there another CERT team that is run by a city?
State College runs theirs, Captain Christian Fischel, and their command structure does. So yes.
That's the Borough State College.
State College. Chief Breach is the chief of a police department in that area, but his borough or township does not run it. It's a county team. Ours is a county team, but it emanated from the city. It started within the city police many years ago, and now is called the Lycoming County / Williamsport Special Response Team. They're at this point, the command structure is in place here within the city police to run this. There is no one interested in or capable of in another agency in this county of supervising this and running it, in my opinion. If that were to change, I'm a former member of the team myself and I'm intimately familiar with their operations. Certainly if that were to change and we were to get a different set of commanders in here that had no experience with this team or not much experience with tactical operations, then that would be an option. Given that it's a county team, we could have a team leader for it that was part of another agency. But right now, the most experienced people down through the team commander, team leader, and assistant team leader are all city officers because we have the most experience.
And that I understand that obviously the most experienced officers, regardless. I mean, I would assume if we had someone with exceptional experience in South Williamsport or Tyadotton, they too might be part of the command team. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm assuming that the command team doesn't necessarily also need to be exclusively from the entity considered in control of the CERT team.
No, that's true. And in fact, Chad Aldendorfer was an assistant team leader for the CERT team for a period of time. He no longer is, but he was. So that was actually in place.
Right. I guess what concerns me is the fiscal element. Why, if this is a county response team, the city would be footing the bill for training. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I think we share. I don't think we foot the entire bill. We get some money from grants. We get some money from the DA. We get some money through donations, as we discussed earlier, and then there's some from the general fund. So it's a combination. The DA has been generous with money in the past for tactical operations. And it makes sense because a large number of the operations are high-risk entries associated with drug investigations at the NEU level. So I anticipate under this district attorney that relationship to continue. And I do plan on going to him and asking him for help from time to time, not every single time, but probably when I think it's appropriate and we haven't already planned to do it out of our own training budget. So it's I think it's a team effort. I don't think the city incurs the entire cost. And certainly these other agencies and boroughs and townships are being very generous, allowing us to have these officers. I think at this point, to call the district attorney and say, we no longer want to run it, it's your team now, would be a mistake. But that's just my opinion.
What I'm getting at is I'm just struggling with the idea that for 30 years, the specialized training elements have come from a budget other than the cities. And now when the city's in the most fiscally uncertain position we're likely to be in for the next several years, well, you know, we are proposing to start taking on more of the cost of training for this entity, which is of great service to the city. I do not deny that, but is also of service, of course, to the entire county. That strikes me as unwise on our part, but also as simply something that you know, whether or not our command staff is the one in charge because we're the most qualified, that seems to me like a perfectly wise decision, even though of course that also is costing us money in terms of, you know, we're paying salaries for a response team that responds to the entire county. That's fine, that's great. But the financial input there strikes me as more justifiable than saying that we should pay for training, not just for our own individuals on the team, but for the entire team as a city when the team is actually a team of the county. How do other members of finance feel about that?
I think we questioned that in public safety as far as the finances go. The chief is almost guaranteeing that he was going to go after donations and try not to incur any expenses, but donations can only go so far. And that's why I questioned this coming out of the general fund,
Right.
where this was going to, you know, what line item was this going to be under, how much that, you know,
Right.
the $60,000 in training does not obviously cover the outside agencies for obvious reasons.
Right.
It's one of the things that we, you know, because of the uncertainty of where money is going to come from in our budget, it is kind of, it's kind of scary because we don't know where we're going to be. We don't have nothing to fall back on because this is such an unusual circumstance this year. So
Exactly.
you know, it's an important factor of what we need. The training is not only viable for what we have used in the 11 responses, but due to the climate of the country, this could also be very important for us to have this in our back pocket. So we don't know how much the cost is. The chief hasn't been able to tell us what the cost is going to be, because I think he's also looking at, like I said, donations. But we should be aware of where we're going to go with this.
Yeah, to create a blanket system, I'm assuming, Chief, that the agreements that we have, that these agreements that we're looking at, with the exception of that single sentence, are the agreements we've been operating under for the last 30 years. Am I correct?
You're muted, Chief.
Thanks,
For the
Bonnie.
last few years, I believe we have been under a couple of these agreements. I don't believe we have this same agreement with all of these agencies in place right now. I would have to research that with Ms. Frank. I think we needed to update these. What the word is there with the new sentence is may.
Right.
So what we're talking about is an absolute fact that I am going to try to use donation money to go to the district attorney, to go to the borough or township and get this money first. But for instance, if my SWAT commander says, hey, the coronavirus got all our training canceled 2 months ago, and now we have a 5-day window to put in for these school slots, and none of those other entities can give me the money to send them to a school, and we have this great opportunity, then we could possibly use general fund money to do it. This isn't an absolute, we're only gonna use our own money, but it affords us an opportunity, because sometimes these schools only come up available to us like once a year. And so you might have a guy waiting like a whole year to go to a $500 or $1,000 school that we could have sent him to right now, but we couldn't because we were limited in what funds. Clearly, if I'm planning for next year, I'm going to go to these other sources and see if we can get commitments before we decide how we're going to pay, if that helps.
Yeah, I understand the point, Chief. I'm not missing the idea that this is a last resort sort of thing. I'm merely saying that we are in a last resort sort of situation right now. And I don't know, personally, I honestly have a hard time saying that this is a year when I feel comfortable saying, sure, we'll pay for these schools at the last minute for officers from other municipalities. I understand the concept behind it. I understand why it's beneficial. And I would certainly hope that then at some point the other municipality would say, hey, we'll pay for something, but the thing is that none of us are in that situation right now. All of us are totally strapped. And I don't know that we will see that investment back. And I'm assuming, Mr. Pavlak, there's no way to bring these expenditures back before council on an individual basis or anything, right?
I don't know what would require that to happen
But yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying
due
to
to
figure out.
the amount that they would be at. I would expect that they would not need to, they wouldn't exceed any requirements to bring before council.
Got it. Because I mean, it just seems we have not done this for 30 years, and now we're proposing to do it. And what I see, I guess, is that this is possibly the beginning of the city taking this team on as more and more of a financial commitment. I understand the logic behind that, but it is in the long run serving more than just the city, and I would prefer to see that financial commitment being shared as it has in the past, where everyone pays for the training for their individual officers. Mr. Yoder, you've been quiet. What's your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, we had some similar conversations in public safety. At the end of the day, I think as long as we are adequately sharing costs that are fair across the board, I'm okay with this personally. I think you bring up a good point that I didn't think of in public safety. You know, is the city the proper place for this? I think that's something over the next year. I'm struggling to remember how long these are. Is there any time date on these or length on these, Chief?
I don't recollect that we do.
Yeah, I would suggest, Chief, maybe over the next months and even next year, we might want to approach the county about the idea of funneling this to them. It does seem that might be the proper place for this, given that it's regional in scope, and that we don't have any formal regional police department or what have you. To your point, Liz, I think that might be a good idea, but you know, as long as we are, from a financial perspective, I think as long as we're fairly sharing this, I'm okay with it. I still would like to know, we had talked about this, Chief, and I believe you're bringing this forward for Thursday night. I would like to have an idea of what that cost would look like for an individual officer. I think that would answer a lot of questions or potentially ease a lot of concerns that we may have. I think that would be a very good idea to have for Thursday night, but
yeah,
anything being out in left field, that's where my head's at.
Yeah, well, I would agree that I would definitely, before I could support this, need to know over the past 5 years, say on an annual basis, what we spent on specialized training for every individual on the team. What qualifies, what we're qualifying here as specialized training, this item that's new for discussion. Adam, I could see, you're right. I mean, we could put some sort of, because there isn't any reference whatsoever to duration of the agreement that I'm seeing.
I didn't see any reference to that at all.
We
I didn't
could put
either.
we could put a 1 year with it having to come before council for renewal next year.
Yeah, and that may not be a bad idea,
Yeah.
just as a natural trigger to kind of re-spark this where we're at.
Exactly. So I would feel more comfortable with it that way too, Chief. If we're modifying the agreement, if we put under duration, basically this agreement takes effect and will remain in full force and effect for each signatory for a year from the calendar date of agreement. And then, will be, can be renewed upon the vote of each body or something like that.
May I ask why we're gonna renew it in a year? I don't understand. There are members of the team that are on it for years. What are we looking at from year to year? The cost of it or?
Yeah, I think we're looking at the change to the agreement, the idea that the city may be paying for specialized training for all members of the team, and then consequently the cost to the city of that element of the agreement, so that next year we could look to roll back that element of the agreement, and changing nothing else except, as you said, some of our agreements with some of these other partners are not up to date one way or the other. So we get all of us on the same basic agreement, and then next year we look at that one particular codicil, the cost to the city, what we've laid out for training in the course of a year. We evaluate whether or not that's something we can continue to support, and then we either move forward with a longer term agreement from there, or we remove that codicil and we move forward with the agreement without the codicil from moving forward.
I just did the little rough math and it was, again, very rough, but if you factor it at the cost of one of our patrol officers C's, which get paid a little bit more than some of the other agencies in the county, but not much more. 5 of them just working 26 training days in a year is a $39,000 benefit just in salary. That doesn't even factor in benefits.
But the benefit accrues to the entire county, Chief.
I know, but the usage of the team, 8 out of the last 11 times is in the city. The city, by far and away, gets the biggest part of the benefit, and it's to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars that we never pay back to these other agencies. And once these school requests are filtered through all of the other potential funding opportunities, the amount of money that we would actually possibly spend on last minute school opportunities that we couldn't get funding in any other way for would be nothing. I mean, absolutely not even close to the amount that these other agencies are basically giving to the city. To me, it just seems like a good faith gesture, unless you're talking about whether the city itself can afford a team at all, which is a separate discussion. But when I consider the extraordinary level of liability and danger that our city and our officers will be in if we remove this capability because of cost, I think the cost of having the team is nothing compared to the cost we would face if we didn't. That's just my opinion. But I've had that team here since I started working here, so those are the tough decisions we all have, I guess.
I think the discussion that we're raising, Chief, is twofold. One, that it seems as though the team serves as a countywide resource. So while it's certainly appropriate for the management of it to be under the city, if the majority of the officers on it are under the city and the majority of our experienced management is within the city, it still is a county resource. I mean, and even, you know, the discussion that we had about the incident that I think you're placing under the city, the incident of the shooting on 4th and Elmira that culminated in a standoff in Lock Haven that existed partly in the city and partly elsewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just a city issue. Consequently, you know, to try to evaluate any of these incidents, I think, as to whether they accrue to X municipality or Y municipality, I think that's the whole idea of having a county-wide resource, right? Is that it, I mean, and apparently this was in Clinton County, but whatever. You know, is that we're serving a regional need.
Right,
And
and I
that,
think that's why the DA has been so willing in the past to assist with training costs and equipment costs. The Terrorism Task Force donated an $80,000 vehicle to us many years ago. That vehicle is older now. In 2005, I believe we got that. Vests to the tune of $4,000 or $5,000 a piece. All sorts of tactical equipment. A lot of that's been provided through grant funding through the Terrorism Task Force. So we are the beneficiaries of some incredible generosity over the years from federal, state, and local sources. And the DA has been one of those. And I think the DA has held up his end of the bargain on providing us support with this being a county-wide team. I agree with you.
good. So I guess what we're discussing is, it sounds as though for Thursday, the Finance Committee would like to understand what we spent per officer for specialized training in the past year. Well, I mean, I kind of like a 5-year average, but an understanding of what specialized training is costing us in general per year over the course of the last 5 years. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that we understand what I have no idea what our training budget is, you know, in terms of the specialized training for the SRT. So that would be information of use to me, period. But then of course that also helps us to understand what we're possibly talking about the city paying for these other 5 officers who are not members of the city staff. So that's the number that I'm looking for, so that I understand what our potential annual commitment might be if we could find no other funding sources for these monies moving forward for some reason, which I think is a very real possibility because budgets are about to tighten up across the board. And the secondary thing that we are suggesting is that this agreement, some people might be more comfortable with this agreement. It seems as though Mr. Yoder is comfortable with it. I can't speak to Mrs. Katz. Myself, I would be far more comfortable with the idea of a 1-year sunset on the new draft of the agreement, so that we could look at the financial commitment the city had made to the particular specialized training item for other municipalities next year, and evaluate whether or not that was something we could afford moving forward. So that this would need to come back for review next year, and then if the budgetary cost of it seemed to be something that we could easily absorb, then we would authorize the contracts for a longer time period than a year. I mean, we wouldn't have a 1-year sunset every year. This is just, we're making a change. It's going to have financial implications for the city, and I would like to understand a year from now exactly how those financial implications played out before we authorize the agreements in the long term. The other thing that would require, but I'm sure Mr. Pavlak would handle this part, is us documenting, perhaps in a separate budgetary line item, the money that we are laying out for specialized training for SRT members who are not employees of the city. Mr. Pavlak, is that something easy to do, or is that too complex?
I'm sorry, I was in another conversation.
Sorry, Joe. I said, would it be easy for us to set aside in the city's budget the cost that we were paying for training for SRT members who were not members of the cities, who were not employees of the city?
Creating a line to I guess,
track
cap
those
the amount or
expenditures?
track the amount. We could,
Yeah.
council would create the line, so it could be done, yes.
Okay, so we could track the amount. What I'm requesting is that we understand what our financial commitment to training members of the SRT team who are not employees of the city is over the course of the next year, so that we can reevaluate. And so I guess it would not be an impossible thing for the finance department to track that. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I
Thanks for-
make a quick suggestion? I think we could just make a line item for SRT training, separate from our regular training. And then annually, we could break it down for you from that line, how much went to them and how much didn't. But we could break that away from our regular $50,000-$60,000 training budget if you would like. A huge portion, I think you'll see, is from outside sources, but it'll take a little while to get the numbers together.
I mean, I think it would be helpful for us to understand what the cost of the training that we spend. It's not, once again, not because we mind bearing the cost, not because the team doesn't serve the city and serve it well as serving the entire rest of the county, and other counties too, apparently. But it's an understanding of the cost of any, I think, specific element of city programming is key. I mean, we make the poor recreation staff break down pool admissions and pool. I mean, everybody breaks down all kinds of stuff, but I think separating SRT training from the general training budget would not be unwise. Adam and Bonnie, further thoughts from you two?
No, I agree with that there should be a line item. Chief, it also gives you an accurate accounting to look at immediately where your costs are. And especially with this coming year and next year, we really don't know where we stand budget-wise. So I think this would just make it more comfortable for all of us to know what the expenses are. And I think we all like that. We all like the breakdowns anymore. So we know where we stand.
Well, like I've said, this year, we have saved more than 20,000 already because of canceled training. I can't tell you, I mean, it's a lot of money. And a lot of training has been canceled because of Corona. So that's been one positive from all the negative. We've saved some money.
We're saving, and we said
But
all
we're just
along
it
that our
later.
budget this year was going to be okay. It's next year, I think, where we're all cringing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's next year that has us all nervous, when we are back up and running, but cannot afford because we don't have the financial wherewithal coming in from tax revenue and et cetera, to fund the backup and fully running thing. That's the issue. So I think we need to sock away as much of the money that we saved this year from cancellations to try and cover next year's costs that we won't have revenue for as possible. Adam, did you have further comments?
No, I agree with a lot of what was said. Again, the big thing for me, I generally think this is a good asset for the city. I think we can all agree on that. I think the big takeaway for anybody, at least from my perspective, is I think the more that we know and the more we can see specific information, the more educated we will be and the more comfortable. I think that's what this all comes down to, Chief. And again, as long as the costs are fairly distributed, I don't see an issue with this. And I would ask again, I think it would make sense to look at maybe this being more of a county level thing. Maybe that might be that's a discussion we should have with the county over the next year, I think.
Well, so you understand, it is a county level thing right now. I don't know if you mean managed or paid for by the county, but it is a county city team. That's one of the points of these agreements when you read through it. it's if the issue is management of it, we have jurisdiction throughout the county with this team. And under the terrorism task force, we can respond to 7 other counties as well. So through the Municipal Police Officers Jurisdictional Act, it's covered. But if you're talking about management of it, I don't know if there would be anybody interested in doing it at the county level. And the district attorney only has a chief county detective and then some detectives that work for him, but he doesn't, typically they don't manage tactical units. So it would, I think the management of it would still fall to us. But it's certainly something we can talk with him about, and I can arrange for a meeting between all of us if you like.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And I think management is not so much the question, Chief. We understand that management should happen from the entity most capable of managing, involved in the team. The issue is the financing of it. That it seems to me that if it is a county-wide resource, a regional resource, then the city should not be financing more than the the officers, et cetera, that are part of the city's. I mean, as you yourself even stated a couple of maybe a half an hour ago, excuse me, I'm being stupid here. As you yourself even stated a half an hour ago, the district attorney's office used to pay for most of the specialized training. We used to receive funds for certain elements of the SRT from various other sources. That appears to be changing, but what I'm suggesting is that we need to look at the ongoing funding of it, because if it's a regional resource and we're footing the bill, that especially in these particular times could get us into some trouble. So that is my concern there. The management of it, I think, moves as we have capable individuals, and I don't have any issue with that. It's the funding of it that I'm asking about. And Adam, if I cut you off, I really apologize. Did you have something that you wanted to say?
Nope. I'm good.
Okay. So we've addressed all of these items. They're the only difference between each of these individual items, 2 through 5, is the entity named in the agreement. So my suggestion would be, since correct, Chief, there's no other difference between these agreements.
Correct.
Okay. Then I would suggest that we just move on down with a motion and a second on each one and vote on them, having discussed them. Unless, are there further comments from anyone else in the administration? All right, I hear a silence and a overwhelming sigh that it's 2:13 and everybody'd like to get out of here. So I would take a motion from one or the other members of the committee.
Do you want to do these all as a group, or do you want to do them one by one?
I honestly don't legally know if we can or can't do them all as a group, Adam.
One
so
by
I think
one. That's
I
fine.
push them one by one.
That's fine.
That's how
I make a.
that's how I did it, public safety. I took each one.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
No, I need to brush up on my Robert's Rules of Order, but in the meantime,
No
I'd rather
worries.
that we did something that was clearly going to legally.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to pass the resolution with South Williamsport to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second,
All right, then, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All opposed, nay. Moving on to item number 3, a resolution for an agreement for tactical team placement between the Lycoming County Williamsport Police Special Response Team and the Tyodotin Valley Regional Police Department.
I'll make a motion to send the resolution with Tyodotin Valley Regional Police to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All opposed, nay. Janice, you're catching that this is a 2-1 on each of these, right? Item number 4, A resolution for an agreement for tactical team placement between the Lycoming County Williamsport Police Special Response Team and the Lycoming County District Attorney's Office.
I'll make a motion to pass the resolution with the district attorney's office to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, and item number 5, a resolution for an agreement for tactical team placement between the Lycoming County Williamsport Police Special Response Team and the Lycoming County Sheriff's Office.
I'll make a motion to forward the resolution with the Lycoming County Sheriff's Office to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Do I hear a second?
Second, I'm sorry.
That's fine, Bonnie. Sorry, I'm just, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Okay, and Chief, once again, that's not a reflection. There are specific, pending receiving a number on what our current annual expenditures are on specialized training, and also pending the administration's consideration of making this an annual, a one-year agreement at this time. You know, some of my concerns about these items would be very much allayed by those modifications. But as the agreements currently stand, I don't feel comfortable moving forward with them as is. So we'll see what Thursday brings. And in the meantime, thank you everyone for a very valuable discussion. And Chief Hagan, I'm sorry you got to get dragged through this whole thing twice today.
No, it's okay. We'll never have problems with you asking for more information. That's your job, and it's our job to get it to you. So that's no problem.
Well,
Thanks,
we
Chief.
really appreciate your long discussion and your bearing with us, Chief. Thanks a lot.
Before you
Okay.
go further, Chief, before you leave, would it be possible for you to come to Public Works meeting?
Oh, poor guy.
Sure.
Okay, because Randy asked me to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, see you then.
Okay, item number 6, a resolution authorizing the execution of a management contract agreement between the City of Williamsport and the Endless Mountains Transportation Authority. Mr. Winder, are you on the call?
Yeah,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
Okay. Then Adam, would you like to get started and tell us what's going on with this agreement?
Sure. I'll give you the short version since everything else is going so long. 2011 RVT was approached by PennDOT to become the management services. To take the management services for Endless Mountain Transportation. So in 2012, RVT started the management services there. It has been going on ever since, and the management agreement is up for a renewal for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. I included in your packet the management plan plus an MOU with the City of Williamsport and Endless Mountain Best Transit. The management plan does identify, should I hit the right page? I'm sorry. It would be $91,000 invoice to Best Transit quarterly for the management fee during the fiscal year for 2020, 2021. It would be quarterly at $22,750 per quarter. Then they would also pay for RVT support staff, which would include the call center, as well as support from other staff members, building maintenance, IT, any items that could pop up. That would also be invoiced quarterly to Best Transit for $108,618.62 per quarter. We also provide some shared ride service. It's considered a premium service provided under the MATP at a reimbursement of $8 per mile with a cap of 75 miles. I do have Todd right here to assist with any questions you guys may have.
Excellent. Thank
And Adam, totaling up the cost of what EMTA is sending into the city is $500,000, almost $500,000. And according to what I'm reading here is the terms of this is the $500,000 is going to go to RVT. In the past, didn't half of it go to RVT and half go for the salaries? Doing it this way, where the full almost $500,000 is going to RVT, is this not going to increase the pension funds for these employees? Where in the other area, the way it was done did not have anything to do with pension funds. Why did you change the process?
At the request of Best Transit, but Joe, if you're still on there, please correct me if I'm wrong. The salaries that come into us for the said employees would be placed on their check under other, what's the wording I'm looking for, Joe?
If it's another pay, I'm not exactly sure what we're looking at right now, so.
Joe, in the process before, when the check came from EMTA, did it not interfere with any of the pension funds, the pension costs?
It wouldn't go towards the city's pension, no.
But now, if it's done this way, would that not increase the pension funds?
Depends on how the earnings are classified.
Say that again?
It would depend on how the earnings are classified, whether they would be eligible under our plan.
Do you know how they're classified? Or Adam, do you know how they're classified?
I do not know how they're classified because prior to this, they received a check directly from Best Transit.
It's only the management team.
And it's-
the support staff.
Yeah, it's just the management team, not the support staff itself.
Joe, is that how that was done before? That the checks actually said Best Transit?
Yes.
And how did that impact Best's pension responsibilities versus ours?
I
There
don't
was
think that they
no
were,
pension responsibility.
Right. It's an excellent point, Bonnie. And something I think we need to have a little bit more clarity on before we. So the proposal is at this point to have certain employees who are paid more or less half by Best and half by RVT. That wasn't really how I read the agreement, but is that the reality of things?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one?
I said the proposal at this point is to have certain employees who are paid partly by Best and partly by RVT. That wasn't how I read the agreement. There was a reference in the agreement to Best employees being only Best employees and RVT employees being only RVT employees. But are we going to have some, I assumed that we would have some employees who would share responsibilities between the two entities. And
Yeah.
now they would all be compensated out of our RVT's funds. And consequently, we will have pension implications that the contribution from Best is not addressing in the long term.
Depends on how it's classified. My understanding was that it
Yeah, I
could
guess
be,
my point is, excuse me, Adam, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
sure.
To clarify my point, that I have dual concerns. Obviously, that our income from Best will not cover our pension obligation in future, but also obviously we don't want to hurt our employees. That is to say, if half of someone's income is derived from a contribution from Best that passes through RVT, we don't want them to not be receiving pension on that portion of their income. That also is not fair. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
My understanding was that doing it this way, it would fall on their check as other income. So it would not affect the pension fund at all. The other,
That other income is income.
right.
Well,
Um,
some, yeah,
I can get clarification because CATA, Tim Geibel, who's employed by CATA, he is also part of the group that falls into EMTA. He is the liaison between their board and RVT.
Got
And
it.
CATA is doing this the same way. That's how this all came about.
okay,
They
If
want
it's
to do
a-
it in a cleaner way.
If
Yeah.
it's not wages that count towards benefit or pension, the pension just won't be withheld from those wages. They'll still get them as other pay, and it won't affect the city's pension benefit because they're not, pension isn't being withheld from that.
got it. And we're not looking at that dramatically impacting someone's pension. There's no one who's deriving a quarter to a half of their income from EMTA related work.
No.
Adam,
But-
how many people would be receiving checks?
Five.
Only
Okay.
5?
Yes.
That's not too bad.
No, it's
Okay.
not.
Well, yeah, I think we'd still appreciate the clarification, but if as long as it's not something that's liable to get us in trouble with those employees at any point, because it's not accruing to their final pension, and also something that's not liable to cost us money that we are not being reimbursed for from EMTA, then I think that that issue is fairly easily settled. But that's an excellent point, Bonnie. So Adam, can you look into that for Thursday, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Bonnie,
The other
next.
question, yeah, the other question I have is on number 10, indemnification. What I question with this all is good for us. It makes, there's no accountability. From what I'm understanding and reading this, is that say we mess up when EMTA, there would be no accountability with RVT. Am I reading that correctly?
Let me see.
That is how I interpret it. This was written up by Solicitor Nagy.
Mhm.
I mean, it's all in favor of RVT, but say something did happen, what I'm thinking of if something happened down the line, okay, and we didn't have anything to do with them anymore because of something that we did wrong in RVT, would that then down the line trickle down to affect our funding?
No. My complete understanding is this affects none of our funding.
No, of course this doesn't.
EMTA.
I'm talking about in the future. There's, from what this reads, it just, is EMTA going along with this?
Yes, their board's actually voting on it tomorrow.
They're voting on it when?
Tomorrow.
I still couldn't hear you.
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, because I thought you said March.
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. I mean, this is good for us, but not good for them.
Yeah, well, that's generally my understanding of the indemnification clause, but I'm not in. So this was Solicitor Nagy wrote this entire agreement. You're saying, Adam?
Yes.
Okay.
Is this the same as what it was before?
Yes, except for the portion where we changed the payments that were going to the employees. Instead, they're coming to the city and then to the employee.
Okay, so the indemnification has always been there,
Yes.
the same wording.
It's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Adam, I didn't see anywhere in the agreement where EMTA's contribution to the city was codified precisely. Did I miss that somewhere?
Yeah, the reason that this is laid out the way it is so that the only thing that would change would be like if they do another year, 2021 to 2022, we're just adjusting the management plan and not the agreement itself every year.
Right.
So when they vote on this, they're actually going to vote on a resolution to accept the management plan and then sign the MOU separately.
Okay, got it. Understood, but we are codifying all of it in.
Right, so for council, we would bring back an updated plan and a new agreement every year that it would go on.
Okay. Because the agreement says that it runs for 5 years with an option to renew for after 5 years, for 5 further years.
I missed that. I bet you Jill did too.
The memo says that it's only 1 year, but the
Right.
agreement says that it's 5.
I'll address that in the agreement because it should only be 1 year.
Okay. I apologize. I should know. Term and default. Yeah. So 3A on page 3. This agreement shall be in effect for a term of 5 years unless terminated pursuant to the circumstances of default by either party. This agreement shall thereafter renew on a year-to-year basis for an additional period of up to 5 additional years.
So that has to be changed to 1 year?
Yes, it should only be 1 year.
Okay, so we will annually then see this agreement, which presumably may not change much, and then also the management contract.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry to be nitpicky, Adam. Do we need to change the wording in the resolution to reflect that too? In terms of the resolution, I mean, the agreement and the management contract are different.
The resolution, I don't think has a code in it, it just adopts the agreement.
Right. Yeah, I thought the resolution just adopted the agreement.
The resolution, excuse me, the resolution adopts the agreement. Do we also need to adopt the management plan?
I can add that in there.
Okay. I guess that's what I'm asking. If you're telling me that that's how they're doing it, should we be doing the same thing? I guess is my question. Or do we not need to adopt the management plan for some reason? And I would also note once again, for purely nitpicky purposes, that I think usually the phrasing you would use is whereas Endless Mountains Transportation Authority desires to engage the City of Williamsport Bureau of Transportation. And usually wouldn't you say doing business as RVT or DBA RVT?
The DBA RVT technically doesn't exist.
Okay, so, well, clearly no as RVT is not grammatically correct, but
The hard part is it should really say Williamsport Bureau of Transportation, but everybody
calls it RVT.
right.
And we don't have, and we have not established that as a business name or an operating name in any way.
Correct. We've had the solicitors look into it and the DBA was never completed.
Okay, got it. Maybe we should do that.
Definitely.
Okay. Because that seems strange to me.
And it was weird how we even fell into it because of insuring buses and different things.
Mhm.
It came up that the DBA does not really exist.
Okay. Well, then perhaps for the purposes of the resolution, it should at least say also known as RBT in parentheses or something. I think the wording in the agreement is a little better than the wording in the resolution. And Adam, once again, I apologize. I started commenting before I asked if you had any comments. Adam?
No, that's okay. My only questions are surrounding personnel. I think we've asked these questions a couple of times. Adam, are you full-time at RVT now? Is there any clarity surrounding your position over there?
No clarity.
It would be good to know that for Thursday, because I mean, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I'll do it anyway. I really feel like you, Chris, a couple others are stretched thin to the point where, you know, we're losing focus on other areas. So if we have clarity on who's running RVT, who's over at RVT as your assistant general manager, I think we need that at this point. So for Thursday night, I'd like a timeline of, and the mayor's not here. I would ask him this normally, just relay the message. It'd be good to understand what the timeline is going to be to get a full-time replacement, whether it's you, if it is you, what it's going to be for Public Works. Chris, if you're going to be at RVT full-time, it'd be good to know when that's going to take effect and what we're going to do with the city for IT purposes. I feel like we're losing stuff. We're losing focus on city services, and I don't think we can keep doing it much longer.
Well, it seems as though, I mean, we justified it for a while as kind of a crisis mode manner of operation. But, we've been in crisis mode then for 6 months, and at some point we need to start making a plan to return to operations.
Correct.
Right, and
Correct.
I think that time is clearly now.
Yep.
Right, so I would second that, Adam.
Yep. That's my biggest thing. That's my biggest concern. I mean, we can continue to limp along here, but this is just going to compound. So, if you would kindly ask the mayor to be prepared for that Thursday, that would be fantastic. So,
No problem.
kindly remind him he's a member of the committee as well. Liz, I apologize. I got to run.
Okay, yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
I bet we generally have to get moving.
Yep.
Adam, can you hang out for 1 second? Bonnie, do you have any further questions on this?
No, I don't.
Okay, then perhaps we should get a motion while there are 3 members of the committee present.
I make a motion that we pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and Adam, obviously that motion is contingent on those handful of revisions that we discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions related to this item?
No.
Somehow didn't get addressed. All right, then thank you very much, Mr. Winder. Item number 7 on our agenda is any related items. Mr. Pavlak, do you have anything related for us?
No.
Anyone, Bonnie, anything related from you?
Nope.
Okay, anybody else for the good of the order? Mr.
I make a
Pavlak,
motion.
okay, actually, one second. Mr. Pavlak, I would ask when we can expect the next quarter financial statements to be making an appearance.
My expectation is the end of July.
Okay, sounds good. And I think we have a handful of other things that are coming out of finance for us here, maybe in early July.
We're working on the capital budget.
Okay,
So
Good.
as soon as I get the last of the information from the departments, I will put that together and have that on the agenda as soon as possible.
fantastic. All right, we appreciate it, Mr. Pavlak. All right, if there's nothing else, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All
I
in
was
favor?
setting up my other Zoom meeting.
Okay. I'll second that motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Bonnie, good luck at Public Works.
Okay, thank
Give
you.
Megan too hard a time. He's already been through it twice today.